Tonight we begin with the remarkable and remarkably stressed life of Elizabeth I, the so-called Virgin Queen, who ruled an empire, terrified her advisors, and spent most of her reign pretending she wasn't slowly falling apart. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's royal misery together. It's the year 1533, and you've just been born into the Tudor dynasty. Congratulations. You've officially entered the world's most chaotic family business. Your father is Henry VIII, a man who believes he's been personally appointed by God to rule England and destroy the concept of stable relationships. Your mother, Anne Boleyn, is witty, ambitious, and currently the most hated woman in Europe. Together, they've produced you, a baby girl, which is already the first diplomatic crisis of your life. Everyone was expecting a boy, a strong heir, a future king. Instead, out you come, wrapped in royal linen and disappointment. The midwives murmur, healthy and beautiful, but what your father hears is useless for succession. You've been alive for 5 minutes and you've already let him down. An impressive start, really. Your christening is lavish because it has to be. Courtiers line up to pretend they're thrilled. Trumpets blare, priests bless, and half the guests are trying not to laugh. There's polite applause for the princess, who, according to rumour, ruined her mother's chances of keeping her head attached. Even the godparents look like they're wondering if it's too soon to ask for transfers. For a brief moment, things go well. You have your own nursery, silk blankets, and a team of servants who definitely gossip about you the second they leave the room. You're fed, clothed, and occasionally acknowledged. Luxury by Tudor standards. Then, 2 years later, your father gets bored, your mother gets accused of witchcraft, and your household suddenly downsizes. When you're 2, your mother walks up to the scaffold at the Tower of London. Her crime? Failing to give Henry a boy and daring to have opinions. The axe falls, and with it, your status. Overnight, you go from Her Royal Highness to the King's awkward mistake. Henry marries again within weeks, because grief is inefficient. You're left in the care of strangers who hope you don't remind anyone you exist. But here's the thing. You're a Tudor. You inherit the family curse, survival through spite. You'll grow up quiet, clever, and terrifyingly patient. And one day, you'll make the world regret laughing at your birth. You grow up learning what every Tudor woman learns eventually. You're only valuable until you aren't. And since your mother's been executed and your father's moved on to wife number 3, your value has dropped somewhere between royal heir and stray cat we can't be seen feeding. You live in the countryside now, exiled from court, but surrounded by expensive tutors. Because even disgraced daughters are expected to be brilliant. You learn Latin before you can spell your own name, read Greek before most nobles can read anything, and spend your afternoons politely pretending not to notice when courtiers whisper about your mother's unfortunate past. Your father, Henry VIII, does not visit. He's busy producing sons with other women, or killing them when they disappoint him. You don't take it personally. He forgets people exist all the time. Still, every new royal birth is a reminder that you're replaceable. When your half-brother Edward is born, England throws a parade. When you sneeze, no one writes about it. At meals, your attendants bow too low and talk too little. You're technically a princess, but one without status, affection, or inheritance. A sort of royal paperweight. You study harder than anyone expects you to, because studying is the only thing you can control. Every grammar rule memorized, every Latin verse recited, is one more brick in the wall you're quietly building between yourself and humiliation. Your only real stability comes from your tutors, who notice something dangerous in you. Intellect. You absorb knowledge like oxygen, and that terrifies people. Intelligent women in Tudor England don't get rewarded. They get accused of witchcraft. So you learn another essential Tudor skill, smiling just enough to look harmless. When your father finally dies in 1547, you don't cry. It's hard to miss someone you mostly knew from paintings. The throne passes to your brother, and you, the brilliant bastardized daughter, remain where you've always been, hovering near power, watching it destroy everyone who touches it. But deep down, you already know your time will come. You've survived shame, exile, and the constant background noise of gossip. And if you've learned anything so far, it's this. Being unwanted has its advantages. No one sees you coming. You're 14 now, old enough to read Latin fluently, quote Cicero, and apparently ruin your reputation without even trying. After years in the countryside, you're invited to live with your stepmother, Catherine Parr, Henry VIII's sixth and final wife. She's smart, kind, and astonishingly alive for a Tudor queen. You think you might finally have a mother figure. Enter Thomas Seymour, Catherine's new husband, and England's reigning expert in bad decisions. He's handsome, ambitious, and allergic to boundaries. The man could flirt with a brick wall and somehow make it political. Unfortunately, he decides you're the wall. At first, his behavior is dismissed as playful. He sneaks into your chambers at dawn, tickles you while you're still half asleep, and cuts your dresses for fun. Catherine laughs it off, because in Tudor England, harassment isn't scandalous unless it becomes paperwork. You don't understand why this feels wrong, but you do understand danger when you smell it. And this man smells like it. And expensive cologne. Eventually, Catherine catches the two of you in what historians call a compromising situation. You call it standing near a man in the 1500s. You're sent away immediately, your household dissolved, your maids interrogated, and your name dragged through every corridor in London. The Privy Council investigates. Old men with dusty wigs and sharper tongues demand to know if you encouraged him, as if 14-year-olds run the country now. You deny everything, because in a way you've learned from the best. Your father survived scandals by pretending not to notice them. You do the same. Catherine Parr dies soon after childbirth. Thomas Seymour tries to marry you next, because nothing says trustworthy guardian like a man who flirts with his teenage ward and then proposes marriage. He's executed for treason before he gets the chance. When it's all over, you emerge technically innocent, but permanently tainted. You've learned your first adult lesson. Men can destroy your reputation faster than the plague, and you'll always be the one who has to survive the cleanup. You stop trusting charm, you stop trusting love, and you start practicing your smile, the one that hides everything dangerous behind silence. Your teenage years end the way most Tudor stories do, with someone else being crowned and you quietly wondering how long it'll take before they try to kill you. Your half-brother Edward VI becomes king at 9 years old, which is about 6 years past the average Tudor life expectancy. You play the role of the supportive sister, polite, educated, invisible, while the real power sits with the men around him. They call it a regency council. You call it the same old patriarchy, but now with powdered sleeves. For a while, things are calm. You study, write letters, and pretend you're not constantly being watched. But the moment Edward dies, the entire country panics, because no one wants your other half-sister, Mary Tudor, to take the throne. She's Catholic, she's angry, and she has a list. You stay out of it. You've learned to survive by not picking sides, a skill that will serve you well when everyone else starts losing their heads. Mary becomes queen anyway. England rejoices for about 3 days before she starts burning Protestants alive. You keep your head down, which in this era is not a metaphor. But then, predictably, someone drags your name into a plot to overthrow her. You're arrested, hauled off to the Tower of London, and placed in the same fortress where your mother died. It's damp, cold, and full of the sound of people not making it out. The guards won't meet your eyes, and the walls smell like fear and mildew. You sleep in the shadow of a scaffold, fully expecting to use it soon. You write letters to Mary begging for mercy, not because you expect her to read them, but because it's what you're supposed to do before execution. Weeks pass. Nothing happens. Mary spares you, either out of guilt, politics, or the faint memory that you share a father who ruined both your lives. You walk free, pale, shaken, but alive. And that's the day you realize what kind of queen you'll need to be if you ever sit on that throne, charming enough to be adored, ruthless enough to stay alive, and paranoid enough to never sleep again. It's 1558, and after years of imprisonment, interrogation, and pretending to be unimportant, you finally outlasted everyone who wanted you dead. Your half-sister Mary Tudor dies, probably from stress, guilt, or bad timing, and suddenly, you're queen. Congratulations, you've just inherited one of the most dysfunctional kingdoms in Europe. England is broke, half Catholic, half Protestant, and one sermon away from civil war. Your advisors are old men who think women should only rule kitchens, not countries. And your royal treasury? It's emptier than your father's wedding vows. The coronation is magnificent, of course. Gold banners, ringing bells, crowds screaming your name as if trauma has been cancelled. Everyone's thrilled to have a fresh start. You, on the other hand, know better. Nothing in England ever starts fresh. It just gets repainted. You're 25, terrified, and completely alone. Marriage seems like the logical next step. The entire court won't shut up about it. The ambassadors write home daily, speculating which lucky man will tame the fiery Elizabeth. France offers princes. Spain offers alliances. Even Robert Dudley, your childhood friend, offers affection, though his wife's existence makes that complicated. But you've seen what marriage does to women in your family. Your mother lost her head over it. Your stepmothers lost their lives, their sanity, and in some cases, their necks. You know the truth. Marriage isn't partnership, it's surrender. So you turn the concept into a political game. You flirt with kings to buy time, promise heirs you'll never have, and let every nation believe they still have a chance. It's diplomacy through strategic indecision. Behind the curtain, you never stop working. You study treaties, count coins, and learn to balance charm with quiet menace. You smile like a saint and think like a spy. Every decision must please everyone and offend no one. A task slightly harder than inventing flight. When people praise you, it feels hollow. When they criticize you, it feels familiar. You rule through performance, and your crown starts to feel more like a collar. Still, you endure, because in Tudor England, survival is success. And as you take your seat on the throne, you finally realize the awful truth of power. Being queen doesn't mean freedom. It just means you're the last one left to blame. You're queen now, which sounds glorious until you realize it mostly involves pretending to be flawless for people who secretly hope you'll fail. Every waking moment is a performance. You can't sneeze without it being interpreted as foreign policy. Your morning routine could pass for a military operation. First comes the wig, a towering construction of hair and symbolism. Then the white paste, the thick coat of lead-based makeup meant to make you look eternally young and divine, which, unfortunately, is also eating your skin alive. It burns, it cracks, and it slowly poisons you. But what's a little nerve damage compared to appearing immortal? Your courtiers call you radiant. They mean it literally. The lead has given your face a faint, reflective sheen. You smile through the pain, because that's your job. Not to rule, but to reassure. England must believe its queen is perfect, eternal, and utterly in control. Even when your heart skips from exhaustion and your hairline has fled for safety. The portraits help. You command artists to paint you as a goddess. No wrinkles, no shadows, no humanity. The image works so well that even your enemies start to believe it. You become less of a woman and more of an icon, a glowing marble statue with a pulse. It's brilliant propaganda, and a personal nightmare. At court, perfection is survival. Any hint of weakness becomes gossip by noon and a political rumor by supper. You can't afford friends, only spectators. The ladies in waiting who dress you whisper behind fans. Ambassadors take notes on how tired you look. One wrong word, one slip of temper, and someone somewhere writes to Spain that the Queen's mind weakens. So you double down. You smile harder, speak softer, and wield charm like a dagger. You never cry where anyone can see you, never show illness, never admit you might be lonely. Every day you build the myth a little higher, Elizabeth the Glorious, Elizabeth the Eternal, the Virgin Queen, until even you start forgetting where the act ends and the person begins. And when the candles go out at night, you wipe the makeup away, stare into the mirror, and wonder quietly how much of you is left underneath the paint. Every morning you wake up to the same question from your council, your courtiers, and half of Europe. So, Majesty, have you picked a husband yet? It's not curiosity. It's a threat disguised as small talk. Because in their minds, a queen without a king is a problem waiting to happen, like a carriage missing a wheel or a candle burning without permission. You've been queen for years now, and somehow you've managed to stay single. That alone feels like witchcraft. Ambassadors write anxious reports to Madrid and Paris. Her Majesty remains obstinately unmarried. You can practically hear the panic echoing across the channel. You play the game masterfully. When Philip of Spain sends a proposal, you smile and stall. When the Archduke Charles tries, you smile and stall again. When Robert Dudley, your oldest friend and the most dangerous option of all, gets too close, you send him away, twice. Because the one thing worse than scandal is scandal with feelings. With, you've seen what marriage does to women like you. Your mother lost her head over it. Your sister Mary lost her crown. Your stepmother's lost, well, everything else. So you invent a new kind of monarchy. One where you flirt with nations but marry none. You are both the bride and the dowry, the promise and the punishment. Still, the loneliness creeps in. You catch yourself watching Dudley too long across the council table. You see his hand tremble when he bows. You both know what this could be, and what it would cost. Then his wife conveniently falls down a staircase and dies. The rumors arrive before her funeral does. You don't attend either. The court gossips, foreign rulers speculate, and poets romanticize. The Virgin Queen, they call you, though not with kindness. You let them. Chastity, after all, makes excellent branding. You wear the title like armor. Every country wants your hand, so none can touch your throne. Every man dreams of possessing you, but you belong to no one, not even yourself anymore. And so you master the art of saying perhaps with a smile that means never. Because the truth is, marriage would have made you someone's wife. Remaining single made you a legend. Welcome to your court, the glittering, perfumed, poison-tipped heart of your empire. On the surface, it looks divine. Velvet gowns, jeweled necks, gold reflections of candlelight on marble floors. But underneath all that silk and ceremony slithers a truth you learned too young. Everyone here smiles with their teeth, not their hearts. Your courtiers adore you in public and betray you in private. Their letters travel faster than their loyalty. You know which ones write to Spain, which ones whisper to France, and which ones pretend they don't. The trick is never to let them know you know. You've turned suspicion into an art form. Part queen, part detective, part exhausted babysitter of the ambitious. Your chief minister, William Cecil, is loyal, but only because you let him think his advice is his own idea. Your spymaster, Francis Walsingham, fills your court with informants disguised as servants, musicians, even confessors. They listen, report, disappear, and reappear with more gossip. You rule a country of listeners. Sometimes you wonder if even your walls are writing letters at night. You've created what historians will later call an intelligence network. You just call it survival. In a world where women are expected to be ornamental, you weaponize charm into strategy and paranoia into policy. You smile, flatter, and forgive, and then quietly destroy those who mistake your mercy for weakness. It's exhausting work. You can't eat without wondering who's tasted it first. You can't walk through the gardens without someone hiding behind the hedges taking notes. Even your ladies-in-waiting play double agents, gossiping for favors that vanish by morning. Sometimes, late at night, you envy the peasants. No one's plotting their overthrow. Their enemies are rats, not relatives. But then you remember, you'd rather be the spider in the web than the fly that gets caught in it. So you keep the mask on. You laugh at jokes you've heard 100 times. You dance with men who want your throne. You pour wine for the same hands that might be sharpening daggers tomorrow. And when you stand above them, calm, radiant, terrifying, you remember what your mother's death taught you best. In a world full of vipers, the only way to survive is to smile wider and bite first. You've survived political plots, bad suitors, and the English weather. But now comes the most dangerous threat of all, family. Her name is Mary, Queen of Scots, your cousin and the most inconvenient relative in all of Europe. She's glamorous, Catholic, and absolutely terrible at politics. Imagine the exact opposite of you. All charm, no caution. She marries unwisely, alienates her nobles, and somehow manages to make being royal look like a group project gone wrong. Eventually, she flees Scotland after a small civil war, which is impressive considering she started it. And where does she run for safety? England. To you. Because nothing says smart decision like seeking refuge with a woman whose throne you technically have a claim to. You don't want her here. You can feel the Catholic nobles twitching with excitement already. Mary is everything they think a queen should be, soft, feminine, and blessed by the Pope. You, meanwhile, have been excommunicated and wear lead makeup thick enough to stop a musket ball. But if you send her away, she'll plot abroad. If you keep her, she'll plot at home. So you lock her up. Politely, of course. She gets castles, servants, and embroidery. It's practically royal house arrest. For 19 years. You visit occasionally in letters. Distant, careful, never personal. She writes back in flowery apologies you don't believe. Then your spies intercept a letter. A new plot to assassinate you and put Mary on the throne. The Babington plot, they call it. You read her coded reply with the kind of detached disappointment usually reserved for spoiled wine. You don't want to kill her. You really don't. But you also like your head attached to your body, and history has already shown what happens when Tudors get sentimental. So you sign the warrant. The executioner does his job, and when the axe falls, it's not triumph you feel, it's dread. Because in that moment, you've killed more than a rival. You've killed the last person alive who truly understood what it means to wear a crown. And for the first time in your reign, the silence afterward feels heavier than the applause. The year is 1588, and congratulations, the most powerful man in Europe wants you dead. Philip of Spain, your ex-brother-in-law and professional sulker, has decided to invade England. His reason? Religion, revenge, and the general principle that women shouldn't run countries. He builds the Spanish Armada, 130 ships strong, loaded with guns, gold, and self-confidence. The priests bless it, the poets praise it, and the sailors assume it'll be easy. You, meanwhile, have an aging navy, limited funds, and the distinct feeling that England's destiny might come down to the weather. Your advisors panic. You don't. You give one of history's most famous speeches instead. At Tilbury, in armor, on horseback, surrounded by soldiers who can't decide if they're inspired or terrified. You tell them you have the heart and stomach of a king, which ironically is truer than you'd like to admit after years of Tudor stress eating. The moment becomes legend. But here's the secret. After the speech, you go back to your chambers, take off the armor, and nearly collapse. You're exhausted, anxious, and half poisoned by the very makeup that keeps your public face shining. Meanwhile, divine intervention arrives in the form of English weather. Storms shred Philip's navy like wet parchment. The invincible armada limps home in pieces. You've won, though technically, so did the wind. Still, you take the credit. You deserve it. You've held your kingdom together through charm, caution, and the occasional gust of divine assistance. London erupts in celebration. Bells ring, poets write, and the streets smell like victory and unwashed bodies. They call you Gloriana, the Savior Queen, the goddess who defied Spain. You smile, wave, and retreat behind your mask of white paint. But victories, like makeup, crack with time. You know the truth. The war nearly bankrupted you. Your navy is in ruins, and your health is quietly unraveling. Beneath the lead and the lace, your skin burns and your teeth ache. You can't feel your fingertips anymore. Still, you keep the smile. You let them see Elizabeth the Conqueror, not Elizabeth the Mortal. Because queens aren't allowed to age, only to fade beautifully. And you, ever the perfectionist, plan to do even that on your own terms. You've won wars, outsmarted assassins, and survived a childhood most people wouldn't survive a week of. Yet somehow, the thing you're most famous for isn't your political genius or your iron will. It's the fact that you've never been married. The Virgin Queen. It started as an insult, then became a weapon, and now it's a brand. You've turned chastity into statecraft. In an age obsessed with heirs, you've made not having one the cornerstone of your power. You are England's bride, your body the kingdom's property, your virtue its national security policy. Congratulations, you've become the world's most dignified hostage. Your portraits show you as ageless, radiant, divine, all white silk and starlight. In reality, your skin burns under the makeup, your teeth ache, and your back feels like it's negotiating surrender. But the illusion must hold. The poets compare you to goddesses, which sounds flattering until you realize that most of those goddesses ended badly. Behind the glory, there's the cost. You can't love, you can't trust, you can't even sneeze without a dozen diplomats wondering if it's symbolic. The same men who praise your divine wisdom also gossip about your wrinkles. Courtiers bring you mirrors like offerings, though you've long stopped enjoying what stares back. You sometimes think of Robert Dudley, the man who loved you before you became an institution. He's dead now, and his absence lingers like perfume in a locked room. You never married him, not because you didn't want to, but because England would have never forgiven you for choosing your heart over your crown. Queens don't get to make human mistakes, only national ones. So you embrace the myth. You are Gloriana, Astria, the untouchable light of Albion. It's lonely work, being a symbol. You attend masques, approve poetry, sign death warrants, and go to bed surrounded by silence. You tell yourself it's worth it, that the world will remember you as the queen who needed no man. But on some nights, when the palace is still and your crown sits forgotten on the table, you wonder what it would have been like to be remembered as a woman instead. Time, like the court gossip, never shuts up. You're older now, though no one's allowed to say it. The portraits still show you ageless, radiant, and surrounded by golden suns, as if denial itself could stop decay. But in truth, your hair is thinning, your teeth are crumbling, and your hands shake when you write. The price of being eternal is starting to show. Your oldest friend, Robert Dudley, is gone. His death hits you like a ghost slipping into the room. You find his final letter, sealed and waiting for you, and keep it in a box labeled simply, his last letter. You never open it. You don't need to. You already know what it says, and the knowledge is both comfort and punishment. You were the queen he loved, and the woman who could never love him back. The younger generation fills your court now, eager, polished, and utterly ungrateful. Robert Devereux, the Earl of Essex, becomes your new favourite, mostly because he reminds you of the old one. Charming, reckless, and stupid in exactly the same way. You spoil him, tolerate him, and then, inevitably, have to execute him. Because that's what happens when men mistake your affection for weakness. The day Essex dies, you stay in your chambers. No speeches, no music, just silence, and the faint smell of the candles burning too low. You once ruled through fear and fascination. Now you rule through habit. The crown feels heavier, your counsel louder, and your patience thinner. You start seeing ghosts, not the supernatural kind, the memory kind. You see your mother in every polished mirror, your father in every demand for loyalty, Dudley in every dream, and Mary Stuart in every doubt. The past won't stay buried. It sits beside you, whispering that all this glory came at the cost of everyone you ever cared for. And still, you smile for your courtiers. You joke, you dance, you pretend. Because that's what queens do. They turn grief into ceremony and heartbreak into performance. But in the quiet hours of the night, when even the spies are asleep, you whisper into the dark, Not a prayer, not a confession, just a name. And then you fall silent again, because history doesn't care if queens are lonely, only if they last. You've outlived them all. The lovers, the enemies, the poets, the fools. Even the mirror seems reluctant to keep up. You are 70 now. Or rather, you are whatever age your portrait says you are. The face on the canvas still glows like divine sunlight. The one in the mirror looks like the afterimage. Your hair, once aflame, is now a memory padded with wigs. Your smile, once clever, now trembles under the weight of too many speeches and not enough sincerity. You've spent 40 years pretending to be immortal, and somehow it worked too well. People have stopped treating you like a person. You are no longer Elizabeth. You are Her Majesty, an idea, a relic, a ghost who still pays taxes. Your council tries to talk succession, but you refuse. Naming an heir means admitting an ending, and endings are for mortals. Besides,